Dan, welcome. How are you, man?
Doing well. Good to see you. How's it going?
Good to see you. All good here. I was in a I was in a taxi crash like 15 minutes ago, but everything's all
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?
But forgot to mention that part when we were like chatting before starting this. Nothing. It's just like on the way home, on the way here. Yeah, my taxi decided to brake very abruptly, so someone crashed right into it. Probably gonna have to down some ibuprofens after this. But anyways, man, happy to have you here. We had you on the crypto hot seat. If anyone wants to check that one, with a bunch of cool guys, including some companies you might know, such as Coinbase. And right now, yeah. Right after that, I thought it would be very cool to have you back here to talk a bit more about Palm because it's a novel project that not everyone in the industry knows about. And well, right now, of course, the NFT hype seems a lot better directed, in my opinion. So it'd be great to hear about what you have to say about all of this, and of course for about Palm itself. So would you mind explaining what Palm is?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here as well. So just so everyone knows, I'm co-founder and CEO of Palm NFT Studio. Palm NFT Studio is a full-service NFT production studio. We have strategic, creative, and technical capabilities to partner with leading artists and brands and bring their visions to life. So far, probably the most public projects we've worked on have been the Damien Hirst currency project. We worked on DC Comics, and they did Batman, Superman, Harley Quinn, NFTs, 800,000 of them. Last week, we did some drops with Pace Gallery and some other things in fine art. And what we mostly specialize in is fine art and entertainment. And so, right now it's all full service in the sense that we have the ability to do visuals, we have 3D animators, we have token economists, we can do all the elements. But we're also in the process of productizing and externalizing the tech platform that powers all these drops. So every drop we've done has sort of been building and hardening a tech platform that we'll be exposing to anyone. It's, I think, also pretty important to know that Palm NFT Studio is exclusive on the Palm network, which is an EVM compatible sidechain. It's got a bridge back to Ethereum. It's very closely connected to Ethereum layer one, but the sidechain has a few nice properties for NFTs. First of all, it's highly focused on sustainability. The biggest criticism you get in the market about NFTs is how they're burning the environment. And the Palm network is something like a million times more energy efficient than proof of work systems and really focused on that. The second is it's got really low gas fees. In fact, negligible gas fees. It's got fast transaction times. It's high scale. It's sort of a lot of properties you want for NFTs. Palm NFT Studio is one of the companies that helped sort of set up the Palm network, but we're far from the only one. Like there's lots of really exciting big companies doing drops on the network, and we're starting to see the side chain really kick off. And and yeah, so that's who we are. So the studio is an NFT technology and production company, and it's been a really exciting period to be in the space. The innovation, the activity, and the projects we're doing are amazing.
This is a very interesting point because like you said, like the main criticism for NFTs is always the same one, right? Environment this, Ethereum this, proof of work, etc. So I do believe that for at least at this point in time, for these things to live up to their commercial success, they have to be minted in chains that are not like the Ethereum main chain. Um, uh, I guess the question in a lot of people's minds is why not use any other of the chains that are already available? Like a lot of NFTs are happening in Tesos right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of different chains out there and a lot of different options. For us, we had a few very specific design goals and design objectives. The biggest one was to keep very close to Ethereum. So Ethereum has a really exciting roadmap with ETH 2.0 rolling out, the transition from proof of work to proof of stake. And so that's something we want to stick close to. More importantly, it's where the innovation we think is largely happening. It's where the experiments are happening. It's where the collectors are. It's where the developers are. It's where the enthusiasm is. And so by choosing an EVM compatible chain, we're able to use the same tooling, use the same smart contracts, use the same standards that are developing around the Ethereum ecosystem. And for us, that made something EVM compatible a no brainer. Within the EVM compatible chains, this was a tough one. We ended up going with the Palm network because we wanted a chain that was laser focused on NFTs, and not a chain that was trying to do different things for different people. Um, Ethereum, it will be the base chain and the layer one for our network, for the Palm network. And so we wanted a side chain that was just focused on optimizing the NFT experience. And we think there's a lot of room to do that. And we expect a lot of sort of things from the Palm network with that in mind.
Man, I ever since this this crypto bull run started, it does seem like Ethereum's fees and everything related to Ethereum usage has skyrocketed in price. It's a bit of a problem really for not only for NFT creators, and I'm talking about people using platforms such as OpenSea and the ones that are available on the chain, but also for DeFi users and for everyone trying to do anything in Ethereum. So I think it makes a lot of sense to stay close to the main chain of Ethereum. Are you how are you hoping to interact with Ethereum once Ethereum 2.0 has rolled out?
So, I mean, first, the Ethereum 2.0 rollout is in phases. And so it'll depend
Exactly.
on which phase of the rollout we're at. But, fast forward to the full Ethereum 2 implementation, uh, we see the Palm network sort of one of two ways. The full Ethereum 2 implementation will have uh, the possibility that there'll be sort of parallel EVMs running in a sharded environment. And so there's maybe the chance that those parallel EVMs, one of them could be the Palm network. I don't know. I'm making that up. I haven't talked to anyone about that. But outside of speculation, very practically, we we want to make sure that everything we do on the Palm network can translate back to ETH2. My expectation is that gas fees will remain high on ETH, even with ETH2. Maybe not super high, certainly not as high as they are now, but the demand for layer one is going to continue to outpace the supply. Let's say, like, the reason gas fees are so high is the demand for transactions on Ethereum are greater than the supply, and I expect that demand just to go up and up and up again. It's a little bit like when you build highways in cities. It's like the solution to
Mhm.
traffic. Everyone always said was like build more roads, but more roads just means more car owners and more people driving, and so usually more roads means more traffic, not the other way around. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Ethereum continues to have lots of activity because it's where people want to be. It's where the developers want to be. It's where collectors want to be. It's where users want to be. So for us, we're really positioning Palm NFT Studio to do large scale drops. Like our last drop we did, the second to last drop we did was 800,000 NFTs. Right, doing
Mm.
that on mainnet is just impossible from a cost perspective. Even if the fees were, 100 times lower, it would be impossible. Super super expensive
I mean,
from that
in a
perspective.
good day, in a good day. Today, I was very happy that I was able to send a transaction that I wanted to send, and it was like $11. Because like the previous day, I had tried, and it was 200 something every time that I
Yeah,
tried. So like
yeah,
even after at $10, we're looking at $8 million here. So yeah, it's pretty
right.
impossible.
Exactly, exactly. And so it also maybe it's possible sometimes, but for the future that I imagine where NFTs are everywhere, it's just prohibitive, right? So we want a very specific chain focused on large scale NFT drops where the price can be low enough. And obviously there's trade-offs in every system. I mean, Ethereum, there's a reason people want to be on mainnet Ethereum. And there's a reason we want to be close. So, our network is just trying to do that one thing really well.
And I think I'm personally very much in favor of Ethereum when it comes to smart contract chains, and I agree with you that that's the place where people want to be, and that's more of a fact than of an opinion when you just see the sheer volume of projects that are trying to keep that option open for whenever. I tend to say whenever 2.0 happens, but like you said, it's in phases. So I guess we're talking after merge here. Um, we we do see a lot of people betting on NFTs, and I'm particularly talking about Facebook here, with their recent move. And I know that you have quite a vision for NFTs in the future. So how did you receive this news of Facebook turning into Meta and all this?
I think it's a great sign for our ecosystem that a company like Facebook is willing to bet its future on the vision we all share. I think a lot of people, understandably, have a certain amount of reservation about Facebook entering the space. I think it'll be interesting to see if Facebook learned its lessons from the last time it tried to enter crypto, right? It announced a big chain, it had 21 partners. Everyone was afraid of the smart contracting language innovation, the wallet innovations, that they were going, saw headlines that they were going to wipe out Ethereum. Uh, Companies that enter the space need to enter with sort of open minds and with the right ethos, or I think it'll be hard to use their market power to drive adoption. So I'm really curious to see if Facebook has learned its lessons. I think the signal is a good signal for us. I think the more investment we can get into our space, the better products we'll all be able to build. I think obviously there's some really smart people at Facebook, but we'll be curious. A lot of the criticism of this move by Facebook is like, oh, Facebook's trying to control the metaverse.
Ah,
I I don't believe that. Maybe I'm naive. I think my hope is they learned their lesson from the last time and they're not going to try and control things in the same way, and that they will be a good citizen within an open metaverse. That would be, I don't know, progress for the company, let's say.
I would say just like when we were talking about Jack Dorsey the other day, I would say that we have to give him like the benefit of the doubt, because you do see like these guys have made almost impossible money with their products. They have like their lives and probably 8 generations down the road already set up. So you could think that they might just be trying to do something that they remember for forever, right? Such as like creating a great metaverse application or whatever Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do. Have you tried the Oculus?
So I've tried it at a friend's place. I don't own one. I mean, I think VR is coming for sure,
It
and
is.
it's gonna change the way we interact. It's going to change the way we work. It's going to change the way we travel. Whether VR and the metaverse merge, I think it's going to take a lot of work. It makes sense as a vision, but there's so many unknown answers to that. Right now, metaverse is it's not you and me sitting in the metaverse. It's our avatars in the metaverse, and part of the joy of the metaverse is it's not us. It's like a representation of us that can be better than us.
Right,
Um,
it's role play.
right? It can be exactly. It's role play. It's aspirational. It's who we want to be. It's the characters we want to be. And so I think it'll be interesting to see if the metaverse can ever merge with reality, like a virtual reality, or if it needs to stay in this land of play and aspiration. That's I think it'll be really interesting how things play out.
And I mean, the Oculus is amazing. My brother-in-law just got one, and we were playing with it the other day, and it's really immersive. Like you really feel it. It's not like one of those clunky VR systems that you would have, I don't know, 4 years ago. This one's really good. By the time it starts merging with things that are on chain, like you said, that's gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Who knows when? I'm sure there's people trying it already, but it's sort of and there will be experiments and there will be some people succeeding, but large scale adoption. We forget that NFTs, despite all the hype, not that many people own an NFT. You know,
No, not at all.
right? It's a really small number, and so we need the NFT ecosystem, the metaverse, to get 1,000 times bigger, and then we can worry about sort of truly integrating with something like Oculus. I think.
It is very easy to spend a lot of time in crypto Twitter and think everyone owns NFTs and everyone is aware of Bitcoin prices, Bitcoin's price at all time. But like you said, we're still a minuscule part of the total population,
Yeah, I think it's
and I would
something
even say
like.
like one
Sorry, go
percent.
ahead. Oh, way less than one. I mean, 1% of the world, way less. Uh, maybe it's 0.04%.
Point zero, really. I would put it at 1% that are aware. Yeah, like you said, like super into the space, working in it and everything. Like we are probably, yeah, less than
I
a
just I
percent.
just mean the number of people who own an NFT. So 1% of the world is like 70 million people, right? I think the numbers of ownership around NFTs on Ethereum, the number of wallets on OpenSea is something like a few hundred thousand, right? And then you put in some of the large scale projects that have happened on other chains, you get to something like a million and change. It's
Actually,
tiny.
1% would be 70 million. So yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's no way
Oh,
it's one
exactly.
percent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
what do you
we need.
see as the first? Sorry, cutting you out. But what do you see as like the first instances of the metaverse or of NFTs in the metaverse as we move towards that alternate reality?
I think it's going to be. So our thesis, what we're doing at Palm NFT Studio is it's going to be real world entertainment franchises that embrace the metaverse and NFTs. So our last project, for example, with DC Comics, was just the first step of what we imagine for Gotham City and Batman and Superman. These are properties that already have, I don't know, 100 million Batman fans in the world or something like that. And when they start bringing their fans to the metaverse and bring their fans to NFTs, that's when people will get mass adoption. It's about creating spaces and integrating properties that people really care about. And right now, yeah, I love Board Ape Yacht Club. And I love, I don't know, my Damien Hirst currency, and I love these things, but 99.99% of the world doesn't care about them at all. But they
Hmm.
care about the DC Comics of the world.
And that's right. I would feel like one of the best thing that happens to NFTs earlier on these moments of popularity that we're on was the NBA, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally, totally. And the other key thing about the NBA is the price points were accessible, right? It wasn't about
Hmm.
the $2 million piece of art, the $69 million piece of art. That's cool. That's important. Those are. I'm not trying to degrade those. I think those are great. It's about the $50 Matrix avatar that sold last week, or the $100 pack of NBA Top Shot cards. That's still very expensive for a lot of people in the world, but it starts to be. It's much more accessible than the $69 million people. And once we get NFTs down to things that are given away for free, that are $1 or $5, we're going to start to see mass adoption.
And I think that's true. I think of course, no one goes around buying $1 million avatars. That doesn't happen, at least in my world. Uh, but and probably in most people's worlds, they don't interact with anything sort of like that. The other day, I was in a family meeting, and someone was commenting that their kid was minting NFTs, and the kid was using OpenSea and all that, and they were very excited because the kid minted their first $2 he sold his first $2 NFT on OpenSea, and I'm like, I didn't want to say anything to his parents, but like, I was just running the math, and he probably spent like $80 minting that NFT. It's cool that we have systems that kids can use, but like you say, we need to build them so that they're friendly for the people that are going to use them.
Yeah. And also, buying and selling is amazing. That's the first NFT interaction point. But we need NFTs that give you utility outside of the idea of reselling it. Like most of the NFTs you own, you probably buy to resell. And that's fine, no issues. But we need them to be able to get up on your wall, to engage, to get you access to new content, part of a community. We need them to have more utility.
Mhm. And since you guys are shooting for utility, that's a good point. What do you feel about this hype of like buying an NFT just to resell it? Because I think that's not where your vision is right now, right?
No, that's not what we're trying to do. I have no problem if people do that. I've done that. It happens. It's part of the game. But for us, for NFTs to stand the test of time, I think they need to be useful to people. And the utility can be a lot of different things. It can be things like things that we don't even really think about, like verified extensions of my identity. So the story I love to tell, I might have even said it on our previous recordings. When I was a kid, I would have friends come over to my house, and when they were there, I would show off my CD collection, right? And CDs cost $10 at the time or something like that. They weren't particularly expensive. They're not collectibles, but these were things that the musicians I cared about created that I owned. And because I owned it, they said something about me. They were extensions of who I am, and they conveyed something interesting about me or something cool about me or maybe something lame about me or something old fashioned about me or they spoke to me and gave me a sense of identity. And so that's a utility that we're seeing NFTs provide to people in a lot of ways. It's why a lot of crypto Twitter have avatars as their profile pics. It's why we're starting to see that pop up on other social media platforms. So that's one form of utility that's interesting and curious. But I don't think it gets us that far. However, there's a kernel of truth in the idea that owning something by the creators we love speaks to who we are and conveys information about us, and conveys information to us and conveys information to the rest of the world. And so I think at the kernel, at the core of everything NFTs do, we need to understand that that ownership based relationship is something really personal to people and speaks to who they are. The last 20 years of the internet has been about renting relationships, streaming, social media, things where you don't own anything. And those are great for lots of reasons, like access and whatnot. But they change. It's just a different psychological relationship between creators and fans. So for me, I think about the identity piece at the core of everything we do, and the core of all our strategies. Utilities then build up on top of that. Things you might want to do in games, experiences you might want to get, access to content you might want to get, and then game mechanics that build into the NFT, where you can merge NFTs or swap NFTs or basically start playing games with the NFTs themselves.
Mm.
And I think we're just starting to experiment and see what's the art of the possible. It's going to be pretty interesting.
And like you say, the extension of personality, it goes in a lot of ways. So if I buy an NFT, I own a couple, and I've minted a couple of like my drawings as NFTs because why not? I
Cool.
gave one away to my sister, another one to my girlfriend, whatever.
Cool.
Um, if they put them up in their avatar, or if I buy an NFT and I put it up in my avatar, it's like an extension of my personality in the way that I'm saying, okay, I am an artist, but if someone buys one from the internet, they're signaling, okay, I'm in some way a crypto person because I buy and sell NFTs. I care about these. If I'm buying like a very expensive one, I'm also signaling that I have a certain amount of money to spare to just buy a board ape for a crazy amount. And there are a lot
Yep.
of stories that go together with that. Same as if you go to a shop and you buy some replica Nikes, or if you buy the real thing, you might look exactly the same. People might not notice, but somehow there's a part of you that notices, right? There's a part of you that gets that little ego boost from owning like the real stuff that you know you shouldn't get because it's just a brand and they're rent seekers or whatever. But the story is there and it's important to us.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. Narratives matter. Stories shape our lives as much as anything else, and the stories we tell ourselves are a key part of that. It's not just the stories we tell other people and the things we learn. It's the internal dialogue, that narrative we tell ourselves, is super super important.
But that was just going on a tangent there. But the most important point I think you made there was about ownership. You're right that in the current internet 2.0, we don't really own anything, and that's even like a common mocking point from like a, what was it, like a G20 conference? You will own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, and not owning things, like I said, streaming is incredible. I mean, with Spotify, I have all the music I could ever imagine. It's insane. The opulence of it, like the insanity of it. I think I forget the numbers, but I could probably spend the rest of my life listening to music and not go through my Spotify library. Right? I'm sure. I'm sure that's true. And so that's cool. That's the upside, but no one ever talks about the cost. And there's costs to the musicians. Like we know musicians are getting screwed over a bit by Spotify. That the only musicians that really make money on Spotify are the superstars, not the small folks. And then we also know that we didn't really think about it, but like me as a fan, I'm missing out on something as well. Because, yeah, okay, I can make a playlist on Spotify or I could share on my Twitter that I like some musician, but that doesn't actually give me a real relationship with that person. It doesn't make me feel like I have a piece of their work as my own. And one thing I think is fascinating is like in the US at least, vinyl collecting is skyrocketing. And
Hmm.
it's not
It
from
is.
older people, right? It's from younger people. It's from people who never grew up with vinyl. Uh, and you have to stop and ask yourself why. Like, what is cool about that? What is interesting about that? And I think the fact is it's a collection that you can show off to your friends. It's something you can own and touch and feel and speaks to you and speaks to people around you.
It speaks about your identity, like you say, and we can. I mean, there are so many interesting points in there. You probably also like the, taking what you said a step further. You probably do not have time in a day to listen to all the music that gets uploaded that same day, and that's
Oh yeah, exactly.
professionally made, recorded, produced music. But like, yeah, there's just not enough time in a day to listen to everything that gets uploaded. And do you remember this band, the Wallflowers?
Yeah,
They had
yeah,
like one hit, one headlight. The singer is Bob Dylan's son, and he went on the Joe Rogan podcast the other day. I was listening to it, and he was talking about how good bands had it in the '90s or or 80s, '70s, where they would get a record deal and with a record label, and they would pay them in advance to produce everything, and they were sort of betting on their careers. But nowadays, musicians don't really get anyone bet on them unless they already have some traction, right? Because it is possible to get some traction through like Instagram, TikTok, whatever you
yeah.
may have as an indicator of popularity. A guy I know just struck up a deal with Warner because he had a song go viral on TikTok. That's something that you don't get.
Right.
And but these people get like what Jacob Dylan was saying was that nowadays there's no way for those musicians that don't make it on Instagram or on TikTok or wherever to make a buck out of their profession because TikTok does not pay you for every time your song gets used, or if they do, they pay you very little. Same for Spotify, same for YouTube. So these people need to rack up huge numbers in order to to be able to survive, and most of them don't, because they don't have a chance to sell something from like the trunk of their car because no one's gonna buy it. So NFTs
That's it.
do solve that to a great degree, because you also insert the possibility of investment in the conversation, right?
And you bring the super fan back. You know, like a band could have 10,000 loyal followers. To sort of change the lens, you often hear in Silicon Valley people talk about like 1,000 loyal customers. This is the best metric of a startup success. Like if you have 1,000
Hmm.
people ready to pay for your service, well, bands right now don't have the ability. If they might have 1,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 fans, and that's not enough for them, right? Because they have, as you say, no ability to monetize with Superfan, and it's too bad. And hopefully NFTs will provide a solution to that. Music NFTs are a bit tricky at the current moment because there isn't quite the interface for them yet. There isn't the technology to interact with music NFTs at the moment. So much of our NFT experience is about visual stuff, putting NFTs on the screen. So I think
Hmm.
we're still working through like what the interaction points are with music NFTs. Once we get that, I think they'll really take off.
And in general, for example, I used to be a fan of this obscure pop punk band, a European band. Never got to see them live because they never really made it big, but never got to buy any of their merch because it would be super expensive to ship it to Mexico, and I was 15 years old, and I didn't have that kind of money for that. It would have been really cool if I could just buy some ownership over something, over
Yeah,
like an NFT or something. And if that had costed me, I don't know, $20, and there were 5,000 people like me, well, that's a decent living for them, right?
that's
That's
great.
something
Yeah,
to keep on pushing the band.
exactly.
What other
Exactly. You said it
use
perfectly.
cases that are more immediate or that solve more immediate needs do you see with NFTs? Yeah, you fell off.
Sorry, my internet cut for 1 second.
Yeah, it was
You
literally
were,
1 second. No worries.
yeah, you were saying what other use cases are more immediate?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, we're seeing we're we're seeing a ton of experimentation on this point. So I think it's really cool. Like Nifties.com did the Matrix drop last week with 100,000 NFTs, and there'll be some game mechanics and interactivity. For me, the best NFTs are the ones that take part in a story and take part in a community. That's not particularly insightful. It's kind of obvious. But what does that mean for the opportunities? It's you either need to find projects that have a great story or a great community, and then build the other one out. And so it's cool to see the way storytelling as an art form is coming back online through NFTs, and the way communities are having a renaissance. I don't think it's a particular coincidence that this happened during COVID when community and connection has been hard to find and sort of has moved largely online.
Hmm. You're right. It doesn't seem like that much of a coincidence. I would also think that most of the communities that I know that already existed online got stronger during these times.
Yeah, yeah,
More
I
activity,
agree with
tighter
that.
bounds. And
Yeah,
now you create like these objects of
yeah,
identification.
monetization tools, identity tools, storytelling tools within communities. It's super powerful.
I I also think, because I was writing a series of articles about NFTs when it came to music in particular, and because like I said, that's a very fertile ground, and it's not really being exploited as much as it could, because it just creates a lot of issues when it comes to regulations, when it comes to how people make money, to the different sides of the music business, and like you said, the platforms for digitizing pictures and that kind of art are easier to make, right? But when it comes to music, it's a bit more complex. Um, since you're in the front lines of the NFT battle, how do you see regulation impacting this? Do you think it's obviously necessary, because there are a lot of things
Yeah.
that need clarification. But yeah, what are your general impressions on that topic?
Um, so I think the regulation in the music industry that's tough, I'm guessing here, is a lot of people think that they can tokenize a song and then share sell ownership of the song, and a third party will collect the royalties for that song. And that's tough because what you're doing is you're basically selling a security in that event because there's revenues based on the performance of other people's work. That's that's like a
Hmm.
textbook definition of security. I'm not a lawyer, but that's my understanding of it. And so regulations will need to evolve to map the internet capacity, or the internet capacity will need to evolve to match regulations. I mean, those are the only two options. And I think with the music industry, we're going to see uh, our reality mapped to the regulations. We're going to see experimentation on different things you can sell, different things you can give away for free, different ways you can monetize without trying to insert themselves in this core royalty conversation, which is very complicated.
And doesn't the the composability features and just the smart contract features of NFTs prevent them from becoming securities? Because if people are making, let's say, an automated income every time something is sold or resold, then you're not really expecting to profit. It's more like you are profiting, no? Or is that distinction just in my head?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but my guess is once you own it, that's not the issue. It's the original decision to purchase it. That's the issue.
All right. Um, yeah, but like I said, music is very complex in this. But when it comes to NFTs in general, what are your expectations?
So I think we're gonna completely reimagine the way NFTs work in the next few years. I think in 3 years, 99% of NFTs will be given away for free or will cost under $5. They're going to be fan rewards, gifts, fan activations. They're going to be little things you give away and delight customers with. It's like the ticket stub after a baseball game. Right? You pay for the baseball game, you walk away with the ticket stub as a free thing, or a free T-shirt you got, or whatever it might be. And so those free gifts will just serve to connect creators and fans. It's not that complicated, and those connections can mean a million different things. And we're going to see a million amounts of experimentation. We're going to see small players continue to experiment in all different directions. We're going to see big players come into the space and start giving away millions of NFTs to all their fans. And I hope that happens because that's how we get the world starting to use blockchain. It's not through DeFi. DeFi is awesome, but the world isn't going to start using blockchain because of DeFi. The world's going to start using blockchain if the stories they care about are using blockchain.
And that's important as well, because I think what we have seen is that we were all expecting that everyone DeFi platforms would replace the banks and the institutions that we use every day. And what happened really is that just like the banks started using DeFi to earn more money with our money. That's because the people don't have as much time to care about financial systems and learn how they're being reinvented. And using the platforms is daunting, sending money is daunting. Like I said, it's a lot easier if it's a Batman figurine that you earned that if that's your entry point to blockchain rather than trying to earn yields.
Totally, totally, totally. It's as you said, DeFi is intimidating. It's been intimidating for me, I'd say, and I'm very comfortable with the technology. I'm not a financial services expert, so like it's intimidating. I've had I don't know if you have this, but I have calls, every couple of weeks from friends who are like, "Oh, I was doing this thing and lost my money." I don't think blockchain will ever replace banks. They will replace banks as we know them. And what I mean by that is the problem with banks is not the services they create. I like fraud protection. I like my credit card. I like insurance on my bank account. I like, uh, you know, being able to go to the bank and get money. I like those services. The problem with banks is that they charge and monetize not based on the services they create, but based on the privileged position they have as an intermediary between me and other people's money. So the future I hope with the blockchain is that banks will exist, but they'll only get value commensurate to the value they create. It'll be an open system, so they no longer hold that privileged position and can't extract too much value from it. And I think when people say down with the banks, what they're trying to say is down with the banks taking too much rent out of the system. But we still need someone to provide some key services.
Exactly, or done with the banks as censorship actors when they decide what you can spend
Yeah,
your money on. But I call myself a debit card maximalist. So yeah, I agree with you that like the banks are important for a reason. They're not.
yeah. I could you imagine if you had all your money in cash or in a digital wallet? I would be terrified to leave the house with my computer. I mean, it would be a freaking disaster.
Yeah, exactly, and they do, like I say, like people say down with the banks and they mean something very specific, but the shortcut is what remains around. I'm guessing you told me about this big news. Is it now the time to talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
Let's hear it from you.
We've yeah.
Let's hear it from you,
No,
sir.
so we're excited because we're we've raised our most recent financing round, and Microsoft has decided to lead it. And I think that's what's incredible about the NFT space is a company like Microsoft has been doing lots of stuff in the Ethereum blockchain for quite some time, largely behind the scenes, largely core infrastructure or private chains, but it's NFTs that is a use case that's tangible for them, that excites them, and has allowed them now to step forward and enter the public blockchain space, which is amazing. And when we have the biggest companies in the world, Microsoft, Meta, Block, right, all these other companies entering the space, that's when the money flows in. And when the money flows in, it's also when the talent flows in. And when you have the talent, great things will happen. What for me the most exciting thing in the last 6 months is just the brilliant people entering the space is unprecedented. And so yeah, so we're announcing our raise with Microsoft and a number of other amazing partners like Griffin Gaming Partners, RRE, Third Kind Venture Capital, Sfermian, the NFT Fund, the Lao, and a bunch of others. And for us, the purpose of this raise was entirely to build strategic partnerships, and every one of our investors sort of brings IP or other strategic value to the table that's really compelling to us. So that's the news and sort of ushers in the next chapter for us.
There's also, well, I mean, well, I was gonna get ahead of myself, but first of all, what do you think Microsoft sees in NFTs? Apart from the obvious, like there's obviously a lot of excitement going around it. There are utilities that are present and that are pressing, but what else do you think makes them excited to do this at this particular time?
I'm trying to think what I'm allowed to say. So,
Take
so
your
we can
time.
cut that out of the recording, yeah. But look, I think Microsoft is at its heart a technology company, and they recognize the technology innovation, and that technology innovation has the potential to fundamentally disrupt many different verticals. Starting with entertainment, gaming, sports monetization. We're seeing music we've mentioned, but also things like real estate, collectibles of all kinds, asset distribution, luxury, all these things. Microsoft has strong technical partnerships in all these verticals. So I think for them, they're trying to back a partner that they can lead into the NFT space very actively, and so we're very grateful for that support.
I I I think there's something that's been on my mind for a while, and I think it's important, but I haven't really contrasted with anyone that's like deep in the NFT industry, such as yourself. So I'm gonna I'm gonna run the experiment with you. Do you think when I see NFT MBA NFT NBA Top Shots or these kind of collectibles in general. Let's call them that, collectibles. You see that there are several editions of them. So they would mint out, I don't know, 15 Top Shots, and you'd be able to buy one of the 15 or even 10 of them, 15 of them, however. Um, I see that there is a problem with the definition, at least in my head, because that doesn't really seem non-fungible to me. It seems to me like there are 15 tokens that are fungible between themselves. And in my mind, that definition is going to be important in the future. Because if you have items that are limited but that are fungible, such as, I would say that they would even go into the same category as Bitcoin or other digital currencies that are limited, because they are supposed to be fungible between themselves, right? And they're supposed to be like identifiers for each one of them, but they're in essence fungible. And that's a very unique kind of asset in my mind. And that's assets that can have a lot of utilities, but that should not be put in the same category as NFTs. And that's
So
my thoughts. What do you think about this?
yeah, it's interesting. So I think NFTs have two characteristics. First, non-fungible, and the second is non-divisible, and that's also super
Exactly.
important. Um, so in the example of 15 NBA Top Shots, I imagine number one of 15 is worth more than number eight of 15. So they're not truly fungible. But this, we did this project with Damien Hirst called The Currency, where there's 10,000 NFTs. They all represent 10,000 unique pieces of art. So they're all non-fungible. The pieces are unique, but they're all similar.
Hmm.
And so some people care if they have number 1048 or 1049, and some people don't care. And it's sort of an experiment on what does it mean to be fungible, what does it mean to be non-fungible, what do people care about? And the answer with NFTs is the value is different for different folks, and that's pretty cool. Whereas I think with a Bitcoin, the value is the same for all folks. Maybe someone would care to have like the original Bitcoin from the Genesis block. Maybe that sells at a premium. It's probably lost forever in some wallet, but if it were circulating, that would sell at a premium. But I mean, I don't even know if that makes sense. Like if you could trace your tree back to that original one, I think that'd be cool. Um, no, actually, that doesn't even make sense. But in the NBA Top Shot example, it would make sense. We could know which was the original
Hmm.
Top Shot, and so I think there's value in that. I think for like the project we did, where there were 800,000 NFTs, we had, there weren't 800,000 unique visual assets. There were categories of them. So someone might have gotten number 10,001. Is that a fungible token or a non-fungible token? I don't know. It's certainly a non-divisible token. I would argue it's non-fungible just because the order matters and the construct and the way we represent the data structures and all that. But it's a fair point. Some projects are trying to experiment with fungible 1155s.
And for example, like you said, there are additional speculative values to some tokens, right? So if you're, but as a spoiler on the next episode, but I was just recording with a guy that they do NFTs for the adult industry. So basically, like the number 69 of each collection goes at a premium, like you said.
Right.
Or if you're selling, going to a more PG-13 example, if you're selling Michael Jordan NFTs, obviously the number 23 one is going to go at a premium because that's a number that represents something. For Bitcoin is a number 21, whatever. So there are that, but I would argue that that's more of an exception to the rule. That is the exception that proves the rule in this case. It's interesting. I think I didn't consider the non-divisible property when I was conceptualizing this. So that's very useful because that's what you want, right? You're not selling some pieces of art by pieces, although that's another feature that could be interesting for other works of art, right? To be able to sell a share of the ownership.
Well, some people are then doing this. So there's like fractional.art, Niftex, and Niftex. And they're wrapping NFTs in other containers, and then some use an ERC20 container and turning an NFT into a set of divisible fungible tokens. So it's interesting what's going on. There's gonna be a lot.
Thanks a lot for taking the time for the discussion. We've laid some points for
Yeah,
people to think about. So if you want to drop your thoughts on fungibility or whatever in the comments, you're more than welcome. And well, that's been a pleasure, man.
yeah, always a pleasure, Carlos, and chat to you soon. We'll be in touch for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Hope to have you again on the podcast, and thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.